heard lots of good things about you. Thanks be to God that you're reaching out to men and women. They're struggling with same-sex desire, same-sex attraction.
Same-sex attraction, that's right.
Father, how long you've been involved and how it came about the community organization I understood is called Courage.
It's called Courage. It began in New York City about 25 years ago.
Okay.
And it is now spread not only throughout the United States, but it is around the world.
Okay. Father, how long you've been involved as a...
I've worked in the Courage Apostolate now part-time since 2002, and for about the last year and a half or so, full-time. Courage is the Church's apostolate to men and women with same-sex attraction. And the Church has great maternal love for all of her children. And so the purpose of the Courage Apostolate is to help men and women with same-sex attraction to live chastely. So it's to help these men and women to live peacefully. So in that sense, it's a spiritual and a moral apostolate that helps them to grow in virtue and in grace and in closeness to Christ. Of course, many people in the world say, well, why is it that if two people feel attracted to each other, they cannot simply be intimate and act on those feelings? Okay. Chapter 19, Jesus gives an answer to this question. He explains the nature of marriage. So he explains that the nature of marriage is that a man and a woman would live together faithfully and permanently and fruitfully. And although this is a Christian teaching because it comes from Christ, it is part of our human nature. So that man is made for woman and the woman is made for man. And what is most particular to marriage is children. So in all things, we always ask the question, how do we know what something is for? By its design.
That's a very good, important key.
In fact, we're always asking that question. If a child comes into a room and sees something unfamiliar, picks it up and says, Mom, Dad, what is this for? So if we think of this now just in terms of the human person and the human body, my body does everything it needs to sustain life on its own, except one thing. So my heart pumps the blood, my lungs oxygenate that blood, my stomach digests food, and it can do all these things without the help of anyone else. There's only one thing that I cannot do to sustain life by myself, and that is to procreate. For that, I need another person. So a man needs a woman, and a woman needs a man. So in a sense, we can say that we are blessedly incomplete. So even our bodies tell us we are made for someone else. Here is how we start to understand what is sexual intimacy for. And the reason I explain this is that many people think that the Church is very harsh or severe, or that she condemns men and women with same-sex attraction. On the contrary, she has great love for all of her children, and she helps them to understand how to live by asking, what is that for? So, for example, speech. Speech is for the purpose of not just communication, but to convey the truth, and also to establish trust between two people. So when the Church says in the 8th commandment, thou shalt not bear false witness or tell a lie, it's because she's looked at communication, speech, writing, to say, what are those things for? It's for to convey the truth and to establish a relationship of trust. So she says, if you tell the truth, then you will be peaceful and happy. So she applies the same kind of thinking to this area of the human endeavor called sexual intimacy. She says this is what sexual intimacy is for. One man, one woman, faithful and permanent, and for the purpose of bringing new life into the world. And that is why she says that things like contraception and pornography, and sexual activity outside of marriage, and in vitro fertilization or sterilization, and homosexual activity, all of these things are outside of the design of human intimacy. And none of those things can make us happy. So the reason I explain this, brother, is because some people think the Church has two standards. So one standard supposedly is for men and women with heterosexual desire, and then another standard for those who are attracted to the same sex. But actually there's only one standard. And so this is how she says, this is what sexual intimacy is for, this is how you'll be happy. Everything else is distortion and will only lead to sadness. So now perhaps we can talk a little more specifically about homosexuality.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Well, yes.
And I think very important that we begin with the vocabulary.
Okay.
Because the way the Church approaches this question is with very great care and also precision of terms.
The Church doesn't want to hurt people with
No.
a certain expression. The
Of
Church
course.
wants to reach out to each person.
That's right, because we are all children of God. So that's why we recommend that we not use the word homosexual or gay as a
But
noun.
they're always using it. Me too. And because this is the culture we brought up,
Well,
you know.
and what we think is better, more precise, and more just and charitable is to say a man or woman with same-sex attraction.
That's true. It sounds better, you know.
Yes,
it sounds,
because we don't want to just say that someone is their sexual appetite.
okay.
Okay?
And okay, sexual appetite.
Their sexual desire. We don't want to just say this is what defines you as
Okay,
a person.
exactly.
Is your sexual desire.
Yes.
Now, certainly our sexual desires are very much a part of us, but there are many other things that also define us.
That's
yes?
right. That's right.
That way, with great care, does the Church approach this question to say, you are a child of God, has the same-sex attraction. And, of course, we also recognize that the desire itself may be something the person does not want, but has always felt, even back to when they were very young. So we distinguish the desire from the action.
Very important.
So the action is itself something that's chosen, but the desires may not be. So we preserve that important distinction as well. So in this matter of same-sex attraction, what a lot of the work that I'm trying to do is to help people to understand where does this come from, why do they feel this way, then if they act on it, is it really for their good? That's why we have, as we did before, we looked at what is, to know what true good sexual intimacy is. That's our standard, as we have already discussed.